If you were to come up with a brand new hero, and your first instinct is to not start off with a bipedal humanoid, chances are you're a fan of these two hooligans. In this video, I'm going to create a pred version of them from the ground up. Let's go.
Tried my best just to catch a fucking smile, but for now I see myself ain't hitting the 35. Been awake 4 days.
So let's talk about Iggy and Scorch. In Legacy, Iggy and Scorch had a very clear identity, role, and a very unique kit. This is the only playable character where it's two heroes working together as one. V42 Iggy and Scorch, however, while they were lethal as fuck, in my opinion, it stripped away the unique duality they once had. Let me explain. The abilities for Legacy Iggy and Scorch had a duality of fire and oil, where Iggy provided the fire through Molotovs and oil through these oil pouches, and Scorch provided the fire and oil biologically.
Iggy and Scorch thrive on setting traps for enemies and lighting them up with oil and fire.
I thought this fire and oil combo was really creative and intricate. These are two characters acting as one. They have their own identities but have a cohesive kit that works for both of them.
Yeah, so the initial goal was trying to create a hero that had kind of like two distinct identities, like two parts to him, but it came together for something that was one coherent unit moving forward together. And it's designing that in the character and then also the theme of it as well. So that comes together with the fire and Iggy and Scorch, one of them actually supplying the burn, the other supplying the part of the oil. And you see we kind of wanted to combine that and then include the turret style. The turrets are like his main identity, something that gives him a area of control. He's able to not only control and push the lane, but also control a little bit of the sides.
When playing Iggy and Scorch, you want to bait enemies into bad situations. Set up your flame turrets in an area and harass your enemy. Once they fall into your trap, use Oil Slick to get behind your target and turn up the heat with Flame Belch.
In V42, however, all of the uses of oil is gone. It's all fire. Epic decided to zone in on the turrets, but had a design issue with two of Iggy and Scorch's abilities for Legacy.
The problem with Iggy right now is that mathematically he had a design flaw, where essentially he creates an area of denial, which is any kind of turret hero for a MOBA. Like, you're never going to be like in every pro game with a turret hero. That's just not the kind of hero it is. It's for players that like want to create, you know, these areas of denial. Like they create these like sort of come and attack me kind of gameplay. And so Iggy's major problem was he had that gameplay in his turrets, but then his ultimate and a lot of his damage is kind of like positional based on where he is. So essentially, once you understand this about Iggy, you know, and most players, even not high-level players, probably know if a guy's got 3 turrets that shoot short-range fire, don't go there. So essentially, if you go into the turrets, you're taking up all of his math there. If he has to leave his turrets to ult you, or leave his turrets to do work or chase you, he's leaving a giant portion of his balance math literally on the floor.
The two abilities he was most likely talking about were their ultimate and Oil Slick. You were able to even use them together to make plays like these. But it did feel weird. It's like the design was meant to have you get behind the enemy somehow and knock them into all your turrets, but that almost isn't always the case, right? People wouldn't really step into 3 Iggy turrets with Iggy right in front of them. Even if they did, Iggy would need to quickly get behind them, and that doesn't happen often. To combat these issues, V42 Iggy was reworked. Oil Slick was gone, and Ultimate was a turret-focused ability. It was strong, don't get me wrong, but this version sort of lost that identity for me. Prior to this major change, Iggy and Scorch were borderline useless in Monolith, so much to the point that their identities were sacrificed in order to make them more competitively viable. But in my opinion, they kind of went a bit overboard. The damage over time from both turret and basic attacks were a bit much. One turret hit, one basic attack, next thing you know, you just lost about 10% of your health just like that. Opposing this new V42 version felt very oppressive. You were almost forced to equip a cursed card called Possessed Sprykin. For these reasons, I'm gonna come up with a version of Iggy and Scorch I would personally like to see for Predecessor using mostly legacy abilities. I really like the whole fire and oil team up going on with that version. Again, I'm pretty sure Omida has Iggy and Scorch in the works with all their abilities all figured out already and are testing them. Maybe. I just thought it would be fun to share what I personally would like to see and see what you guys think of my crazy ideas. And here's what I came up with. Disclaimer, this is all just my opinion, of course. So before I begin, I want to start off by giving a shout out to Demande and Sundown for inspiring me to make this video. According to one of the lead IT members of Pred, there are 3 types of mages: artillery, control, and battle. I have this idea where I give Iggy abilities that would categorize him as a control mage, while giving Scorch abilities that would have made him a battle mage, if you were to split these 2 individual characters apart. But remember, Iggy and Scorch aren't one single character, it's actually 2 working together. Together, they can form this control/battle mage hybrid that uses combinations of fire and oil. This is the identity I want to go for, where Iggy is the control mage part, as he's the brains of the operations and does all the zoning with all his gadgets, and the big brute Scorch is the battle mage, where he excels at short range, consistent magical damage, and loves team fights. And of course, it would be silly not to include turrets as part of their identity. Turrets are Iggy and Scorch's bread and butter, and I'm 99% sure they always will be. For a role, I'm sticking with a turret champion with elements of a battle mage through Scorch. For basic attacks, I want the basic attack animations to alternate between Iggy throwing a Molotov and Scorch's small fireballs. I would prefer this over Iggy throwing a Molotov in Legacy, or only Scorch fireballing like in V42. That way it'll feel like these 2 characters have a partner relationship rather than like a pet master one. For my version of Iggy and Scorch, there will be 2 components to each ability. 1 control component for Iggy and 1 battle component for Scorch. Here are the 2 components on the passive. Iggy is able to direct turret fire with basic attacks. Scorch deals damage over time to targets hit by oil. I'll explain my reasoning later. For now, let's skip to their primary ability, or Q, Flame Turret. I've always been a fan of the flamethrowers over the fireballs, despite it being weaker. But I think what I'll do is stick with fireballs initially. I want the turret to behave drastically different between the basic version and the ultimate version. So I'm making the Iggy component for Q his bread and butter flame turret with fireballs. Max charges of 3 with high cooldowns, good range, and low health pool. However, I'm adding a battle component to Scorch. His component is actually a passive. Bonus move speed while near a tower or a turret, sort of like Heimerdinger from League of Legends. Shout out to Seismic, by the way. Let's go over their RMB next, their right mouse button. This ability will require good aim and provide AoE. For this, I've given Iggy a skill where he lobs a pouch full of high viscosity oil, almost tar-like, which slows enemies in an AoE. This is the control mage part, but if you choose to hold the right mouse button, Scorch will let out a charged up short range fireball attack that explodes in a large AoE instead. This is the close range battle mage part. For their E ability, I have something kind of interesting to say the least. I think you might like this one. You know how for the right mouse button I went with skill shots and AoE? For this E ability, I'm going with mobility and crowd control. Iggy throws a Molotov behind Scorch's butt. Scorch farts, thus igniting a small explosion that propels our heroes upward and forward. Scorch does a small knockup upon landing and covers the small area in oil. And no, I'm not smoking that wacky tobacco.
Quite a bit of humor, I think, in Iggy, more so than I think we've seen with other heroes so far, trying to show some of the personality with a lot of the heroes coming into the game.
But I'm calling this ability the Fart Slam. Not only does this knockup give Scorch this battle mage-esque ability, it's also quite goofy and in my opinion fits the theme of these 2 knuckleheads as well. This ability can be casted during the ultimate as well, which I'll talk about next. I still prefer Legacy ult, despite the V42 ult being far more lethal and making more sense. Legacy ult was just more fun in my opinion, so this ultimate I will make it a channeled ability. This means its E easy to interrupt with hard crown control. During this channeled ability, all flame turrets uses flamethrowers instead of fireballs, are indestructible, have extended range, and does more damage. Scorch does his cone of fire and belches at the end, which causes his knockback. This ultimate can be recasted early if the player wants the knockback effect sooner, similar to Gideon and Narbash. However, the recast won't turn off the turret flamethrowers early. As you can see, we capture the control and battle mage identities all the way through. We put something in each ability that fits the theme of fire and oil and what their respective subclass wants them to do. I think these abilities capture the goofiness, buffoonery, and the maniacal shenanigans of these two outcasted troublemakers. It gives both Iggy and Scorch their own identities, but together create a cohesive unit whose kit work together and allows the player to have a playstyle that fits a unique role of a control/battle hybrid mage within the Predecessor space. You can still be a lane bully with the turrets, you have catching potential with the oil sacks, you have good wave clear with AoE with Fireball, you can even combo the Fart Slam and ultimate like it was in Legacy. But like all heroes in Predecessor, they must have weaknesses. All of the abilities should have a medium to high cooldown, the turrets are destructible outside of the ultimate, and the ultimate is a channeled ability, so the kit isn't completely overpowered, but can still feel that way when you have enough gold, as you should with any hero. As Iggy and Scorch, you have the ability to be a lane bully, but you also have to play very cautiously. It should take a fairly long time to set all 3 turrets down, even with a lot of cooldown reduction, aka haste. Their biggest weakness should be their lack of range, durability, and very high cooldown timers on all abilities. You have to plan ahead if you play as them. Because of these limitations, Iggy and Scorch excels as a lane pusher but also relies on their team. Players should always feel like they need protection from the turrets. With these abilities in mind, this is how the natural gameplay loop and playstyle will look like. At level 1, you can choose any ability and still benefit some way with the passive. You can place a turret down against a wave of minions, you can lob oil or fire to do large AoE damage, you can gap close and knock up during the ultimate, so there's some versatility. But that's enough out of me, just a fun little video for you. Hope you find it entertaining. Early access, by the way, is within the next 19 weeks. Let me know what you guys think of my ideas in the comment section below. If you have your own take on Iggy and Scorch's abilities and what you would like, I would love to hear them. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.